Just a quick technical announcement. If anybody is using a mobile device, such as an iPad, an iPhone, or any other mobile device, it is best that you go to your app store and download the Cisco WebEx meeting application. It's a free download, and it will make the use of the WebEx on a phone a lot easier for you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dana Zimmerman with Fidelity National Title Group. In addition to being the claims liaison for the Fidelity New York Agency Department, I am also Fidelity's CLE and CE coordinator in New York State. We're proud to offer our 6th combined CLE and CE program today. Before we get started with Peter Riebling's presentation, Email Compromise and Wire Fraud, Protect Yourself and Your Business, we have a few housekeeping items to take care of. The DFS requires all approved providers prior to the beginning of the course to read the following statements. Provider, course, and instructor approval documents issued by the New York State Department of Financial Services are available for viewing by each attendee. These documents serve as documentation that your course is currently approved for credit. They also verify the approved number of credits, the license class eligible to receive credit, and the course approval number you will need to renew your license. As an aside, all title insurance agents licensees are eligible to receive 1 CE credit for this course this morning. The course approval number will be listed on the course completion document you will receive after the course. Second, attentiveness during class. During the instructional period, you may not conduct insurance or other business or read materials unrelated to the course. All electronic devices must be silenced. Texting is not permitted. Third, attendance policy. The New York State DFS requires attendance for 100% of the approved class hours. If you log in late, you may be denied credit for the course. If attendance requirements are not followed, instructors and providers may face disciplinary action, in which case credits may be jeopardized. Fourth, course completion documents. When you have successfully completed a course, you will be issued a course completion document showing the course approval number, eligible license class, and the number of credits you have received for completing this class. Retain this certificate to use when renewing your license and in the event of a department audit as proof you took the course. Remember, you cannot use credits for any course more than 1 time per eligible license class. I have one last housekeeping item before we start. On the first page of the course materials that were made available to you in the email sent yesterday, you will find an attendance verification form. Please print out that form, fill it out, and email or fax it back to me after the program. My contact information is listed on the form. Please indicate on the form whether you are looking for CE or CLE credit. And if you would like CE credit, please include your DFS license number or numbers if you have multiple entities. At various times throughout the program, you will see 3 different program codes pop up at the bottom of one of the slides. You must include all 3 program codes on the attendance form to receive CE or CLE credit. Also, if anyone has questions during the presentation, you can type it under the Q&A section of the webinar, and Peter will respond to you after the webinar. If we have time, we may try to do it at before we log off today. Lastly, at the end of the program, there will be a survey. Your feedback about the presentation is important to us, so we ask that you please fill it out. Now I'd like to introduce Peter Riebling, who will be presenting on email compromise and wire fraud, protect yourself and your business. Peter has over 30 years of experience as an insurance broker and consultant for the financial services industry. Since 2010, he has concentrated his efforts in working with the title industry towards the development of a comprehensive errors and omissions, cyber liability, and crime policies for title agents. As a recognized industry leader, he has participated in several title industry-sponsored conferences addressing all aspects of the insurance risk facing the industry. As a consultant to Riebling Insurance Agency, LLC, he has assisted this specialty broker in providing comprehensive insurance coverages to over 600 title agents in the United States. Peter, I turn the presentation over to you.
Well, thank you, Dana, and I appreciate the opportunity that's been offered to present today. I want to thank all the participants for participating in the program, and I just want to, let's get started. We have a lot of information to cover, and we're going to try and do it quickly, but we're going to try to do it effectively. So if we go, if you look at we start with obviously the first slide. We're going to talk about email compromise and wire fraud. Probably the hottest, most difficult challenge or challenges facing title agents today. It's an incredible risk, and it basically feeds into all those things which we are concerned about, alters best practices and CFPB rules and regulations. So what we're going to try to do today is we're going to give you some background. We're going to talk about compromise and wire fraud, red flags, online and best practices, technical countermeasures, cyber breach plans, law enforcement, cyber insurance, and then if we have time, we get into the questions and the answers. Okay, email account compromise. Obviously, the Federal Bureau of Investigation is extremely involved in this. If you go outside of the title agency or title business industry, I mean, look what we're dealing with now. We've got the National Democratic Committee was hacked. We've got NSA was hacked. It's an enormous problem. And by the way, if the NSA and the National Democratic Committee can't protect emails, their emails, think of the risk and the jeopardy that we're under today. And this is a global problem. It's in the United States and it's in every other country. And this is the targets. Target businesses that regularly perform wire transfers. Use social engineering and computer intrusion to conduct unauthorized wire transfers. I think you can pretty much read the rest of this on your own. But the point is that there's probably no industry more targeted than the real estate business in this country. And as a third-party provider to the banks and lenders, there's probably no group of specialists or providers that have more personal financial information on their customers and title agents and or control vast amounts of customer money and lender funds. So it's very simple. Why is the real estate industry the target? This is where the money is. Okay, so we're going to go a little bit of some statistics. Next slide. Okay. You see here, this is FBI statistics. Total victims over 22,000, and the exposed dollars are enormous, over $3 billion, and the average loss or claim is $139,000. I'm going to drill down with it, be a little more specific, and we'll talk about FNTG as a title underwriter. In the last 5 years, 2000 to 2014, there have been 6,000 fraud complaints. It represents 3% of the total claims reported to FNTG, but however, it's 15% of the actual lost payments. So this is an ongoing problem that just keeps increasing in scope. As the insurance broker for the Fidelity program, which is the exclusive program recommended and endorsed by FNTG to the agents, in the last 12 months, we've had 50 total claims against roughly 600 customers, policyholders. 12 have been fraudulent wire instruction claims, and our average loss has been $75,000. In the past 2 months, the activity has picked up tremendously, and there's no question that you've got to protect yourself. Okay, we've already talked about the scope of this. We'll move on. These versions of the DEC scams, we're really going to focus in on what really pertains to you in the industry. So basically, we're going to skip 1 and 2. They don't pertain to you. These are supplier swindles in other forms. So we're going to get to version 3, and an employee of a business has his or her personal email hacked. Employee's email is used to send out requests for invoice payments, customers, blah, 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 to fraudsters' bank accounts. And it's not noticed until there's actually a problem and monies are actually stolen. Okay? Now we'll talk about the scenario that's really affecting the title industry. And they use the term or description intrusion scheme. Well, this is a victim receives an email from seemingly legitimate source. It contains a malicious link or an attachment. Victim clicks on attachment and you're compromised. Now, let's talk about the real estate industry and let's talk about title agents. These scams frequently involve the targeting of real estate agents, title agents, buyers and sellers, opposing attorneys, etc., involved in a particular real estate transaction. And they're gaining entry into their computer systems and posing as those parties via compromised email. The term for this, or the popular term, is spoofing. Once the legitimate parties have acquired the necessary documents sent via email, usually closing instructions, wiring information, the fraudsters will infiltrate their email system and send corrected wire instructions or alter the existing instructions, bank account information or beneficiary, for the purpose of diverting the funds to a bank account under their control. This is probably right now the scheme that the cyber criminals are most likely to be involved in. And you know, this scheme also can involve mules within the U.S. who open a domestic checking account to take receipt of the funds, often a fake name or LLC, and the funds ultimately make it offshore to foreign banks. So once you're compromised, it's extremely difficult to get it back. So just to recap, and this is not in your slides, but I'm happy to supply this to you, at a later date. The common characteristics of fraudulent wire instruction claims. Seller's funds are compromised. The fraudster is purporting to be the seller or the seller's agent. What we see more and more now is the real estate brokers are being compromised. And the fraudster monitors the traffic. Typically, the hacker is able to get into the insured's email system versus, via phishing schemes, adds a forwarding function so that emails are forwarded to the fraudster. At a strategic moment during the transaction, the hacker sends a fraudulent email from the account that looks similar to the legitimate seller's email, leading the agent to believe that the seller has a change of mind. And there's a change in wire instructions, new bank account. Change in the means of distributing or dispersing seller funds, void, check, and send wire. This is probably the most often used and the most damaging scheme that's currently being used by these criminals. We're going to get back on slides, but so why don't we move on to the fraudster's next move. If the malware is not stopped or contained by antivirus software, it could allow direct, unlimited access to data, passwords, bank account information, your camera, microphone, your PC. It can download key logging software to record your keystrokes. More likely, the phishing attempt will try to redirect you to their fake site and have you voluntarily give them your password and email account. This is what they're doing to then trick you into wiring money into a fraudulent bank account. These are called spoofed emails. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I just was reminded of something. Please, you see the code word fraud? That's got to go on your CE application. So please don't forget that. We're going to move on to these are spoofed emails. So after gaining your email access, your email will be monitored sometimes for great lengths of time. At the right time, a spoofed fraudulent email will be sent out to a person who is in control of the disbursing funds, where in most cases, or a person that will pass on wire instructions to the dispersing entity. If acted upon, the funds are wired to a fraudster's bank account. So as I said, this is the most frequently used system of stealing that the cyber criminals are using. I'll give you some basic scenarios. These are good examples. Seller's attorney email is compromised. Seller's attorney imposter attempts to divert seller proceeds.
You should have these two gray boxes at the bottom of the album. Did you say anything? Just hold on 1 second, folks. Can you hit this kid? Can't use it. Try to use Hallscape. No. I think you should.
Okay, we talked about the seller's attorney email being compromised. Let's talk about, this is a typical scenario. However, it really is more likely not to be so much the seller's attorney as the seller's real estate broker. I think you all are concerned, and if you're not, you probably should be, is that a lot of real estate brokers do not have protected emails. They use AOL, they use Gmail, you know, they're easily compromised. And they're basically telling you, as the escrow agent, that there's been a change in the settlement procedures and that the funds are to be, instead of cashier's check or to be wired, or they change the wire instructions from one account to the next. This is kind of the point where the rubber meets the road, and most of these frauds are being perpetrated. It's less likely it's the buyer's attorney, because actually, obviously, who's really going to be the recipient of the funds from a sale, real estate sale, is the seller, not the buyer. But you've got to be very diligent whenever there is a change in instructions. One of the things, probably the most basic, or it's common sense, but believe it or not, it's not being practiced to the extent that it should be. There should be a callback. Everyone in your office, if they get a change in instructions, should call back and verify the original and any subsequent change instructions to the disbursement of escrow funds by making an answered outbound telephone call to the person requesting the change and confirm the original and/or subsequent change wire instructions or mailing address. And the phone number used to call a legitimate party must be obtained from an independent third party, such as the Internet. And you should keep a record of the call. This is probably represents the best solution to being the victim of a wire transfer fraud loss. Okay, so we're going to move on. Next, these are very similar. We're not going to go into any detail. You've all seen these. These are wiring instruction examples. Let's talk about the phishing red flags. These are things that you need to keep your eyes on, obviously, to prevent a loss. The best thing that you can do in your business or in our business is what can you do to make sure, or to do the best you can so that you don't suffer a loss. And these are the red flags that you should keep an eye out for. Any unsolicited email from someone you don't know. Unsolicited attachments, links from known contacts could be imposter. Overly formal language, bad grammar, misspelled words, bad syntax, incorrect facts in an email, and a pressure and a sense of urgency. These emails that we have seen that have led to losses is typically, the emails look like they could be from the legitimate party to the transaction. But if you really pay attention to what's being on, there normally is some form of an error. There's a spelling error, there's something in there, there's capitals, there's this, there's that, they're not complete. That should send up a red flag, which again should lead you to become more cautious and protect the identity of your customers as well as their funds. This is a Fidelity bulletin on identifying BBC. So again, you look for email asking you to take important action like wiring and requesting you to confirm an email, not phone emails from the same recipient with significant changes in grammar, sentence structure, spelling when compared to previous emails. Timing. This is a big thing. Typically, what these frauds are being perpetrated is at the very last minute, so you don't have time to check. It also gives a sense of urgency that it's got to be done now, otherwise the transaction isn't going to close. I think we've all seen these cases. They love to do it on a Friday or a holiday. It allows them more time to divert the funds and less time for you to check. Here's some good examples. The real email address is jonathan.doe@fidelitytitle.com. One might see Jonathan Doe at Fidelity Title with a 1 in there.com. These are all examples of slightly altered emails from the fraudster that would appear to be from the legitimate party to the transaction. And you'll see below, there's just more examples. And these are very, very frequently used practices. Now we're going to talk about online best practices. Now, I'm not a technology person, so I can't be as much help as perhaps you need in this area, but I can tell you that even in our business, we use outside consultants to come in and make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect the integrity of our website and the information we have on our customers. It's money well spent. And you'll see this whole term, it's best practices. I think, we've all been inundated with Alta's best practices. And, between the protection of customer personal financial information and the protection of consumer funds, lender funds, these are two of the 8 pillars of best practices that involve what we're talking about today, the subject of today's webinar. So these are really, a lot of this is all sort of, common sense, but you know what, we all get busy, we don't pay attention. Mostly it's not a matter of paying attention, we're also damn rushed in what we're doing. And you take some shortcuts to get to the end result, which is what you think is going to be satisfying a customer. And at the end of the day, this is how you, in effect, are compromised and information and or funds are stolen. So, again, the next slide is more of the same. It's all good hints. It's all been developed over a period of time by FNTG to help you. And you'll see it, antivirus software, spyware detection programs. That, it goes, there's a number of different ways you can protect yourself. And one of the other things that FNTG does is they have a number of vendor partners, of which, we are one. We are Ridley Insurance Agency as the provider of or the developer of the Fidelity Pact program is FNTG's exclusive vendor partner with respect to the offering of our comprehensive title insurance agent program. They've also developed, meaning FNTG, vendor partner relationships with companies that have been gone through the due diligence and have been approved by FNTG to provide security. And if you go on the FNTG Partner Solutions website, you'll see 2 of them, Real Estate Data Shield, that you may be familiar with, and also Security Compliance Associates. If you haven't contacted them and you're interested in getting information regarding how safe your systems are and their suggestions on how you can reduce or hopefully eliminate these type of losses, I encourage you to contact them. And, this is the more helpful hints. Protect your device from malware, Stop, Think, Connect, awareness programs, anti-phishing groups. Keep, obviously a lot of this is common sense. Keep a clean machine. Protect your personal information, secure your accounts. Make passwords long and strong and keep changing them. There's all sorts of things that we can do to help protect ourselves. The challenge is taking the time to do it and following through. And really the consequences of not taking the time and not protecting ourselves, the consequences far outweigh the risk of taking a little bit longer to get to the finish line. This is very serious business. Same thing, it's more hints. I think you all can read this when you get a chance. Okay, we're going to keep going. Oh, by the way, we're going to get to the next slide. It says 3E WebWise. Please, once again, you'll see the code word compromise at the bottom of the screen. Please put that on your CE documents. Now we go to this next slide. Safe for me, more secure for. This is all more of the same. In the event that you are compromised and money's stolen or identities are stolen of your customers, the FBI has a special Internet Crime Complaint Center. You see the web address right there. And talk to your local law enforcement. The more that these crimes are reported, the more devotion and time the government's going to take to try to protect it. You know, if it feels different, act different. You have to be familiar with your business routine. Understand what you expect someone to ask for requests. Know the habits of your customers. Don't ignore odd requests or out of the ordinary business cadence requests. These are all more red flags. If someone doesn't make sense, stop all communication and call a phone number you have on record to them or their associate, not one they might provide an email. Don't open attachments, links from unknown sources, but also known sources, when they're not expected on a not expected call to confirm. You've got to keep an active communication with your customers throughout a transaction. Use the phone when you can. Phone is actually, even though I guess now so much is done by texting and by online communication, phone is a great tool, and I'd rather talk to somebody over the phone and feel comfortable that I'm talking to the right person. You got their voice, you know what they sound like, they know what you sound like, and there's less of a chance that someone can trick you. And countermeasures, you've got to fight back. And training is the best thing. Train employees to take those steps which we've talked about to try to help protect yourself. Also, there's two vendor partners we've talked about involved in cybersecurity, Real Estate Data Shield and SCA. They have the ability to train. You can do online training. There is a cost associated to it, but once again, I'd rather spend the money and the time to prevent a loss that could cripple you financially in the event that you have an uninsured loss. Social engineering is another name for email fraud and business email compromise. These again, some of the the red flags. These are all very helpful. This is prepared by a vendor which FNTG uses out in the Midwest. It's you'll see on the bottom, knowbefore.com. Again, here's some of the red flags. Don't recognize the sender's email address as someone I ordinarily communicate with. This email is from someone outside my organization and it's not related to my job responsibilities. I don't know the sender personally and they were not vouched for. I don't have a business relationship or any past communication with the sender. This is an unexpected or unusual email. These are all red flags that you've got to recognize and stop what you're doing and begin to check as to whether or not this is a legitimate party to the transaction. We could read these again. I think you're really best served in taking your time and going through this and read these pretty carefully. These are kind of, this is really advertisements for Know Best, Know Before. So I don't think you really need to concentrate on those. Close this. Move that over. Close that. Close that. Keep going. These are some of these authentication tools which are used, by these different security companies. Again, this is something I think that you can take a look at on your own. Gives you some ideas of costs and who you go to. Now, let's get to some of the prevention items, and we're going to keep skipping along here. Okay, hope for the best and you plan for the worst. Again, another common sense approach to the problem. Have a breach plan before an intrusion. Okay, so if in fact you are hacked, either data is stolen or money, what should you be prepared to do? These are again recommended protections. Identify mission-critical data and assets. Review and adopt risk management practices. That's what we talked about before, loss control. If you think something is fishy, it probably is. Investigate. Create an actual incident response plan. You know, you have to be, if in fact you hack, what do? Money's stolen, information is stolen. You have to have technology in place to address an incident. Have procedures in place for network monitoring. Have legal counsel or the ability to contact someone who can advise you going through. Align other policies with your incident response plan. Develop proactive relationships with law enforcement, cybersecurity firms you may require in the event of an incident. If in fact you're compromised, what do you do? Most importantly, you've got to find and see if you can hold on to the dollars. Okay. You got to activate the breach plan. You have to stop all email communication, assume it is being monitored. You've got to call the bank that sent the wire to the fraudster, and you have to try to get them to recall the wire. Obviously, this is key to this, and in our experience with these claims, the banks also have a responsibility to protect the funds of their customers as well. So it's a shared responsibility between you as the escrow agent, settlement agent, title agent, and the bank. They normally are extremely cooperative. You're both on the same page. You don't want the money to go to the criminal. You want the money to go to the legitimate party for the transaction. But however, it can get very rough because these wires go in and out so damn quickly. They may not be able to stop it in time, and it may be on its way before anyone can react to solve the problem. Now, if this is an outgoing example, would be seller proceeds or commission. You have the wire escrow agent or their accounting department will do this for you. Give them any information they ask for and your 24/7 contact numbers. If this was an incoming wire and you were the wire, this is for really the attorneys as opposed to you as the title agent. Be prepared with the fraudulent wire instructions if you have them. All banks have slightly different protocols, so please follow their instructions. The key thing is to get in touch with the bank as soon as possible that is sending the wire. Now, the other way of trying to solve this is have the bank and you that sent the wire call a receiving bank. It's on the fraudulent wire. Ask for the fraud department. Tell them that an erroneous fraudulent wire transfer was made to them. Ask them what you need to do to recall it. This is more primarily the bank that you contact to recall a wire. It's more their responsibility than yours, but you should be aware of it. Any contact, anything that you can do to get the money back so you can pay them to the proper party, legitimate party, is important. Now, receiving bank's perspective, I mean, if the customer received money from an alleged fraudulent wire transfer, the bank, this is the receiving bank, obviously, the bank will conduct its own investigation. And if and when they are comfortable returning the funds, they will do so. They indemnify themselves of their own wrongdoings while holding these funds. This can take up to 90 days. You can consider a temporary restraining order to legally freeze the funds. Obviously, this is not easy to do. One of the things you can do, and you're encouraged to do, is when you're aware of any type of a crime, report it to the FBI and the IC3 group within that. And below are the specific areas that are important. 2, you know, law enforcement and financial institutions in combating the EEC scam that should be reported as soon as possible in the victim's complaint. You should have all this information, following information, handy when you make the complaint. I think, once again, this is pretty self-evident. And this is the specific information regarding the Internet Crime Complaint Center within the FBI on how you would contact them. Obviously, you've got, you know, you should take a look at how this happened and try to figure out what is going on. I see here too, we're on report information. Okay. I'm sorry, folks. On the prior slide, report information, you'll see the code word wire. Would you please also add that to your CE documents? And let's go to the next one. Again, you've got to take a hard look at what you did and didn't do and see if you can make sure it doesn't happen going forward. And obviously, you do not use compromised systems to communicate, to intrude on other network. Other follow-up considerations. Again, continue to communicate via phone until email is known to be secure with your escrow agent at you. Make sure they have all updated information about the breach. Contact your existing insurance carriers. This is more falls into what we do for FNTG and for you as FNTG agents. I should also mention that this Fidelity PAC program is offered only to title agents that have contracts with FNTG. We do not offer this to agents of other title companies. So obviously, you've got to contact your insurance carriers. If either the title underwriter or a customer has lost money, or they feel that their information, personal information, has been stolen, and that the criminal has used that information to hack into or steal money from their credit cards or bank accounts or whatever, they're going to try to recover from you. Particularly, obviously, if the information, there's a breach of security in your system, that the criminal was able to get their personal information and steal money from them, they're going to come after you. If the title company pays a loss due to a fraud, they're going to come after you. So you've got to contact your insurance carrier to see if you have any coverage or not. Now, this is really a very complicated area of insurance, and I don't want to drag you through the weeds, so I won't. But I'm going to give you some basic information that you need to be aware of. Everyone who's had one of these claims is basically saying, well, does my E&O insurance cover this? Well, the fact of the matter is, it really doesn't. Most E&O policies that we've read, and we've read not all of them, but quite a few of them, they have certain exclusions which basically allow the insurance company to deny the claim. The typical exclusion says, we will exclude claims based upon or arising out of unauthorized access to the insured's electronic communication systems. We will deny payment if, in fact, the insured does not safeguard the funds. In of itself, those two exclusions, which appear almost in every policy, allow them to deny the claim. Now, as far as the second bullet, consider cyber insurance, standalone or rider. There's a lot of misunderstanding as to what cyber liability insures, okay, the term cyber liability. Cyber liability is the theft of consumer or customer personal financial information that is used by a criminal to steal funds from that customer. If the breach happened at your end and can be identified as such, this liability insurance is going to protect you for any financial loss suffered by one of your customers. It's also going to protect you in the event that is you've got notification provisions within the CTV. You've got to tell all your customers that they may be compromised. You've got notice issues. You've also got credit monitoring services, a lot of expenses. Also, if you've been a victim of a malware, you have damage to your own systems that have to be repaired. That's what cyber liability does. It's different than cyber crime. Cyber crime is not the theft of personal financial information. It's the theft of customer funds or lender funds. So basically, what we do is we offer the errors and omissions, which is obviously you need as part of your contract requirements to FNTG. We offer cyber liability insurance. And we also offer computer crime coverage, which has to do with both computer hacking and there's fraudulent wire transfer coverage. So the difference is when you say cyber crime, a hacker breaks into your server and diverts your funds to their criminal or their fraudulent account. With fraudulent email losses, what happens there is you're being tricked. You're being tricked into wiring money to the criminal. There's a big distinction here. So this is not a sales presentation, but I can tell you a lot of time and effort has been devoted by us and our underwriters at Lloyd's to coming up with specific protection against not only cyber liability, but also cyber crime, both hacking as well as the fraudulent email. And all of our policies have specific coverage which is going to protect you in the event of these losses. Okay. You'll see that on the next page. This is kind of what I just went over, but it's key. And there's an important thing, too, on the errors and omissions. Let's take an actual claim scenario. A seller supposed to receive the funds. You've been tricked into sending them to somebody else, to a criminal. Now, you know that you made the mistake. Okay? Somehow, funds, instead of going to the proper party, legitimate party, have gone to a criminal or fraudulent account. Now, under errors and omissions insurance, there has to be a third party. Someone has to come to you and say, we suffered a financial loss due to your negligence. And we are going to sue you for our damages. Well, if you pay the seller the funds that he should have received, he's no longer at a loss. If you pay the seller, the title company is not in a position where they're going to have to, they haven't suffered any financial loss. You as the insured are the only victim, and you can't sue yourself. So your natural inclination, and it's business reasons too, you don't want the loss of reputation. You don't want to be, tarred and feathered for basically sending funds that you are in your care, custody, and control to a criminal and not the proper party. But if you pay this, if you pay the claim, there is no claim under your E&O policy. And the social engineering and fraud, we've talked about that. Basically, that's what cyber liability, does. Protects your customer's personal financial information, any losses they suffer. There's also regulatory actions and penalties. In Fidelity Pact, we have a CFPB rider that if there's any form of a civil complaint registered against you, a warrant summons, we'll pay for your defense costs. So insurance is important, but it's not as important as it is preventing the loss itself. So all I can do with this is encourage you to really be aware that this is a problem which is increasing in scope on a daily basis. My sense of it is, if you go outside of the title industry, if you look at what's happened with the NSA and the National Democratic Committee, these hackers, criminals, they may maybe more talented and more able to steal information from you or money than who we're paying to hopefully protect us. And as these schemes and as the protections increase, they just seem to be able to find different ways to, in effect, perpetrate fraud and cause tremendous financial damage to all parties to the transaction. So I think all I can do is really encourage you to do everything possible to protect yourselves. If you are the victim of, report it to the government, report it to the FBI. Try to get to the banks and stop the wires before they're sent out. If they have been sent out, try to get it back from the bank that's the recipient of it. And please take the time, in the event that no matter what you do, some criminal finds their way to perpetrate a fraud and you suffer financial damage or loss, please make sure and check that your insurance policies, your program does in fact cover you in the event that. I think we have some time for questions and answers. Does anyone have anything specifically that I failed to address or they'd like some more information about?
Peter, I haven't received any questions through the webinar, but if anybody has any questions, feel free to email me, or I can give you Peter's information and you can address questions to him.
Okay. Dana, is there anything else that you can think of, or have we satisfied the time requirement?
Yes, I think we're good. Thank you so much, Peter. Hopefully, you know, this information has been helpful and useful to all of you. And again, I ask when you log out, there should be a survey at the end. I ask you please to fill it out. It's helpful to us to get your feedback. So thank you so much, Peter, and thank you everyone for joining us this morning, and have a good day.
Thank you very much. Good.